to some executive things. So Shawn Michaels was announced to be the new vice president of talent development creative, and Road Dogg was also rehired. As reported by Faithful, he has been promoted to an executive position. It's not exactly known what type of position it is, but it is an executive position. I was going to say, do you think that this is going to lead to more changes? Where do you think that this change is going to be more prevalent, in the product that we see on Raw and SmackDown, or in the talent development that we see on NXT?
I'm going to just assume, cause wasn't that his previous role to begin with? He wasn't in NXT. He was more focused with Vince on the main roster. Wasn't that his original position?
Well, I think
I'm not
Road
too familiar with
Road Dogg and Shawn were Hunter's team. They were I think it was Shawn, Road Dogg, a couple of others, and William Regal, and that was like his go-to people in NXT. I'm not sure of if he was involved on the main roster.
Well, I feel like maybe just because Hunter would probably interject him into the main roster, so he's around familiar faces again. Like, he's already used to these crop of people, so why not just bring him over and have him just work with the same talents again, so he's not out of the loop. Yeah.
I agree. I can see that for sure. I think that these are very, very good hires. I just think that it's very interesting that literally Hunter's bringing DX back together to run WWE. I think that's so cool. I think that as far as where the changes may be a little bit more prevalent, I think that you're probably going to see more like a deeper talent development in NXT 2.0. I think that these changes are directly going to affect that, because I feel like talent development is going to start with your new crop of talent, and you can just sprinkle some refinements to be made to the main roster. But I do see a lot of changes happening in NXT 2.0 as far as how they develop the people down there. I think that not just necessarily how they develop it, but like how far they can take it, because I feel like there was a cap on these talents and their potential, because it's like, well, we can build them up, but only but so much, because you don't know how Vince is going to react. But now that there's a full vertical in place, I think that you're going to see a lot of like talent being developed well from the ground up, and they're going to be, everything is going to be invested into them, knowing that they're going to be utilized properly once they hit the main roster because of who's in charge up there. So
do you expect to see more focus on factions?
Ooh, yes. Actually, I do expect to see more focus on factions, because I think that when you look at some of the most successful and profitable things that have happened in this industry, they've all been tied to factions. With the exception of like Rock and Stone Cold, but NWO, D-Generation X, even if you look more recently with the Bullet Club, it's a factions world, right? Like, people love factions because people like seeing groups of friends do things together. They like seeing cool cliques. They like seeing people be, being dominant, kicking ass and taking names. So I do see a lot of factions being developed, and I feel like we're going to see a lot of good factions being developed. I feel like if Road Dogg and Shawn and Hunter were heavy influence on Undisputed Era, I think they got more tricks in the bag, and I feel like they're going to develop more sound and solid factions. What do you think? Do you think that there's going to be a focus on factions?
No, you definitely took the words out of my mouth. I strongly think so. That's mainly what I was thinking about as I was watching back NXT. I feel like if he is going to be placed in NXT, then hypothetically speaking, I could see a bunch of factions either being made there or being formed on the main roster. Right. Factions are always fun. They're always a good time. I love seeing different characters, picking out, oh, this is the leader, this is the best friend, this is the mouthpiece, this is this person. Like, I think factions are fun. I do think that it's a dying art. We do have some factions that are being brought up. I know that, last week, as we discussed, Santos and his faction is going to be brought up to the main roster. And I do feel like, again, if it was like Vince McMahon's world, he definitely would have split them up and just took whoever thought he was a star and didn't make them carry out something independently. Yeah. But I do feel like we're going to see factions that stay together, but also they could still fend for other things that they want to fend for. You know what I mean? If this person wants to have a little a little session in session, sorry. If they want to have a little function, like say like the women's division, or this person wants to have a function in the mid card division, I feel like they're still going to keep them as a group, but allow them to stray off and do what they want to do. Because we don't have an undisputed era at the moment, guys.
We don't.
Like, what is going to be at? Oh, sorry, I smacked the mic. Sorry, y'all. But I just slapped the shit out of it with these nails. That was hard in your ears. I felt so sorry. But yeah, we don't have undisputed era anymore, y'all. So I've been sitting there thinking to myself, what is going to be the next faction that we have created? Because I don't think Adam Cole could even come back if he wanted to. I'm pretty sure his contract has X amount of years left on it. Yes. So I was thinking to myself, like, I know that definitely hurt Hunter and Shawn in the chest, you know, when they left, Kyle left, and Bobby Fish left. I've been thinking to myself, what is going to be their next, like, creation? Like, what's going to be their next faction here? You know?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a women's faction.
Looking forward to. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a women's faction. I don't know who's going to be the next woman.
But who? Like, who would we... Because, I mean, we have Bayley in her faction, but that still doesn't feel like it's a... Yes, it's a Triple H move, but it doesn't feel...
They need a name. They don't have a name. They don't have a name. They're just Io, Kai, and Bayley, and that's cool. But I think that they need a name. Like, that faction needs a name. I was saying this on Twitter. I saw someone say Damage Control, and I was like, wait, that's their name? I don't remember them saying that. Right. That was like a caption that they posted on something, but I don't think it was like their name. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the next big move or the next faction is a women's faction, just because like I feel like that's where WWE got hit the hardest, was with the women. It's between Naomi and Sasha leaving and Bayley being out for so long. Like, if they had a faction to kind of hold them down, I feel like they would have stayed afloat and there would have been a little bit more interest in the women's division. Like, Riot Squad would have been perfect with Sasha and them out. But you know, I still think that the women's division needs a couple of factions. I feel like Bayley has one. I think there should be like a competing face one. But I feel like if there's going to be another big faction, I think it's going to come from the women's division more than anyone.